I don't know what yet. I'm glad you did that. That was exactly what I had in mind.
Oh, good. Oh,
so I was going to go. Right.
Did I do it in the wrong key?
No, you did. No, you just chose a different part of the song than I would have chosen. Maybe the B instead of the A by Hans Zimmer. Anyway, yes. So there's the score. Is it back in the same way that everything else is back?
Pirates of the Caribbean is here. Dead Men Tell No Tale / Salazar's Revenge in the UK, it seems to be. This is the 5th film in the franchise. Quite a big gap between this film and the last film. The last film being Stranger Tides, On Stranger Tides.
I don't think that performed very well.
No, I wasn't a big fan of On Stranger Tides, but I'm going to save all my Pirates of the Caribbean previous franchise stuff chat for what we've been watching. That's what I'm going to try and do. I'm just trying to focus on this film, and I think it's going to be quite hard to do, but I'm going to try.
Okay, man. We're right behind you.
So Jack Sparrow is back, but he hasn't really been seen. Instead, we start the film with Will Turner's son, Henry.
That doesn't sound like a good start. Can I put it out there?
Yeah,
I think
you can.
Orlando Bloom was not considered a high point of the series.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll talk about that in a little bit. But this time we've got Henry Turner, who is a little boy who is longing to see his father, who, as you know from previous films, is now stuck on the Dutchman. He is the kind of captain of the ship.
Isn't he Barnacle Bill or something?
He's the captain of the ship, the Flying Dutchman, which is kind of like a graveyard ship that goes and captures the dead of the sea.
Yeah,
and
he used
things
to be
like
Bill
that.
Nighy with his squid face. Right?
Yeah, he's replaced him, but he of course can't go back on land for 10 years. He can have one day on land, but he's stuck basically being the captain, and it's slowly cursing him, making him more into a barnacle man.
Yeah, Barnacle Bill.
And Henry, of course, wants to see his dad. He wants to break this curse. And actually, we've got a pretty good clip. Henry, at the very start of the film, as a little boy, decides he needs to see his father. He needs to see Orlando. He misses him dearly. And so he decides to strap some stones onto his feet, jump off the boat into the water. And then suddenly, Orlando Bloom, Will Turner, comes and rescues him. And they have a little bit of a chat. And here is pretty much the main gist of the plot.
Don't you see I'm cursed to this ship?
That's why I'm here. I think I know a way to break your curse. To free you from the Dutchman.
Henry, no.
I've read about a treasure that holds all the power of the sea. The trident of Poseidon can break your curse.
Henry, the trident can never be found.
I found you.
It's just a tale.
Like the tales of you and Captain Jack Sparrow. He will help me find the trident.
You stay away from Jack. Leave the sea forever. You have to stop acting like a
Pirates? I won't stop. I want you to come home.
Oh, don't talk to me about pirates. I can't do his voice.
He's got a weird voice. It's not the voice
I did a more Cornish version than him. Oh, don't start talking to me about the pirates. I can't even do an Orlando Bloom impression.
Well, he's doing a weird impression of his own character. I don't understand it. It's not the voice that he had. Obviously, when he was doing that Cockney film with Naomi Rapace.
I like a good tagine. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, he was... he's kind of forgotten how to do his character, which is just Will Turner, his normal voice. It's just him.
Weird.
That kind of gives you the main thrust of the plot, the main MacGuffin, which is this trident. Poseidon's trident, basically, is what they're looking for. And amongst all of this is a very nasty captain played by Javier Bardem. Is that right?
Yes, Javier.
Who is playing Captain Salazar, a guy who has links to Jack Sparrow, who has been deeply affected and cursed by Jack Sparrow. And so he wants to get revenge on the captain.
That sounds like every single film so far.
Yeah, so basically you've got a fantastical, weird villain who's trying to get revenge on Jack Sparrow. And you kind of hit on the problem of this film, which is it's kind of a reboot of what they've always done since The Curse of the Black Pearl. You've got a kind of weird-looking pirate guy, captain, who's kind of missing some of his face, his teeth are always bleeding blood, who, for some unknown reason, wants to get his own back on Captain Jack Sparrow. It's all about Captain Jack Sparrow. I found this film quite frustrating because I think there's a lot of elements which are really strong in the story and in the ideas that they don't execute very well. I think it tries desperately to re-engage with the audience, the things which they loved, which they think that they loved from the first film. But what happens is you get kind of a weird sort of cover band-esque version of a Pirates of the Caribbean film. It hits the beats, but it's not quite right and it's not what you want it to be. and you just kind of wish, I wish it was being played by the original set.
I should think most of the cast must be absolutely tired and they've had enough of this by now. Because, I mean, Johnny Depp, much as I loathe to bring in anything approaching tabloidiness to this film, is in debt, isn't he? And he needs to earn a lot of money. And I can only imagine that was the last bit of appeal to him in this character.
Perhaps, I don't know. I think you can tell the tiredness, though, on Geoffrey Rush's face in particular as Captain Barbossa.
He's an old man now, surely.
He's getting very old, and the character, they don't really know what to do with him. They don't really know what to do with Captain Jack either. He is, unfortunately, a parody of himself. It's a weird imitation of the character rather than the original. And it's so frustrating watching them kind of miss the point of what was so appealing about the original films.
But Bruckheimer is involved, right? Still.
Yeah, and you've got the bombastic score, you've got the amazing visual sets and the sea and the ships and the characters, and they've kind of tried to get back into that zone by hiring lots of the original Black Pearl crew back that were being kind of throughout, Mr. Gibbs, and they even tried to get Gareth from The Office back, but he couldn't make it because of scheduling conflict. So there's definitely trying to harken back to the original, but unfortunately, in order to do that, and in order to kind of reboot the franchise, they have to add in new characters, because Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley are kind of done with the franchise, sort of.
Yeah.
And so instead they kind of take the characters' children and put them on front and stage, and they become the replacements, but Captain Jack is still there and he's still very much key to it. Henry Turner is played by
Brendon Thwaites,
who was in
Gods of Egypt, which I still unironically enjoyed. Very much so.
And he had a very much strong appeal as a kind of leading protagonist.
He was great. He was like Aladdin or something. I thought he was terrific in that. Very open and honest.
He does have that quality in this film, and he acts it really well, but his character isn't written enough. They start with him, but then actually they shift protagonists onto Karina Smith, who's played by Kaya Scodelario.
Yes, from Skins.
Effie from Skins. He doesn't say anything.
That series, I gotta say.
I really didn't like the fact that they didn't know who their protagonist was in this film. And actually, it really highlights that there was actually a lot of appeal to Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley. They had a lot of chemistry, and they carried those films really well.
Do you think so? Because a lot of people said at the time that they're the worst thing about it.
Which I think it doesn't give them credit for, because having now seen two films without them, those two films really suffer from having no real earnest, charismatic couple to kind of carry you along. In fact, this film can't even escape the shadow within its own film of Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom.
Orlando Bloom's in it. I mean, Keira, does she show up?
No comment.
Okay, all right.
But if you do see this film, you will see exactly what I mean. It really cannot escape the charisma of that original couple, and the film suffers for it. It really wants to do something new, branch away, but it's trying to do something new whilst looking backwards, and which you can't do. You're stuck between the pier and the boat.
So what's the problem? Is it a muddle? Does it feel chaotic? Does it feel like there's just too much? What is the thing that really kills it?
I think it's really missing the good original bits, which are the sword fighting and good characters to root for, that you really care for. You don't care about Karina. She's got this characterization which is, you don't know really her past, you don't know where she's from or what she's doing or what's motivating her, and that of course is revealed over the course of the film. But her character seems to be just that she's smart. She's not like the other women in the film. That's right. She gets accused of being a witch routinely throughout the film because she understands science, but there's not really enough to her. Henry Turner is, while he's very earnest and charming, and I really like the guy and the performance by him, there's nothing to his character other than the fact that he is the son of Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley. That's the entirety of his character.
So what does that just mean when you don't have an anchor? There's a little sea metaphor for you, Phil. With all the stuff swirling around it, does it feel like everything's just a bit formless? Yeah,
and you don't really know who you're rooting for or where you're emotionally going to be invested. Yeah. Jack Sparrow is the lead, but he shouldn't be. He should be a side character. He really should be a side character. Everything swirls and connects to him all the time, and I don't really think that's what his character should be. This is one of those films which I found myself wanting to rewrite. I want to reorder the film and put focus on different things and change the order around so that you get a clearer picture. There's actually quite a nice sequence where you get to hear the backstory of Salazar and how he became this sort of weird zombie captain.
He looks pretty good, and Javier Bardem is great.
Yeah, he's always charismatic, and he's got history as a good villain. He was great in Skyfall as the villain against James Bond, and he kind of manages to do it again. He's very menacing, very intense, and there's something kind of intriguing about his design, the production value of this pirate ship that's sort of a monster in and of itself. It kind of leaps up and kind of crashes down like it's a big shark onto other ships. That's how it attacks them.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
And that looks good. The special effects are really, really good in this film. But where's the heart? Where's the drive? The film doesn't really ever discover it until very much at the end. And even then, you're not really that bothered. The film does have that sort of over-the-top spectacle that the World to End had. You know, there's that whirlpool moment where...
at World's End. Yes, I do. I by that point, I have to admit, I was just...
You checked out, didn't you?
Yeah.
But it has that, which I don't think is what people really wanted. If you compare the final act of At World's End versus the final act of The Curse of the Black Pearl, I know which one I prefer.
Yes.
I much preferred the sword fighting and
They're
the
fighting in a cove, aren't they? And
and it's quite simple and it's just fun and energetic, and the choreography and the script carries you along rather than this huge, ridiculous spectacle. This film goes very much for the spectacle rather than the fun swashbuckling. I want more fun swashbuckling.
Well, that makes sense then. If the characters aren't holding it together, then I can see why they've done it, because they must have felt that during production. Like, we're not getting an emotional connection with the leads, therefore, let's pick up the CGI and the action sequences, right? But, I mean, tell me, is there a good sense of mystery? I mean, you said at the beginning there were some really good story ideas.
Yeah, so I like the captain. I like Captain Salazar. I liked...
this Poseidon's trident thing sounds a bit MacGuffin-y to me.
It is MacGuffin-y, but it works fine, and it's the idea of trying to hook back the slightly frustrating ending of Orlando Bloom and Keira Knightley's storyline and trying to resolve it in this new film, that being kind of the main drive of Henry Turner's character, I really like, because I think people who finished the original trilogy of Pirates of the Caribbean maybe were a bit frustrated that these characters that you were rooting for are separated for so long, and the idea of trying to kind of end that is a nice sort of drive.
Interesting.
But then again, you see how it's harkening back. It can't escape the shadow of that original romance, that original couple that you were rooting for. And instead you're going to get this fake couple that's sort of a surrogate for that.
Okay. So let me tell you the picture you painted to me, Phil. It sounds like a big, confusing, messy painting based on the original film.
Yeah, and you kind of wish you had Gore Verbinski, who comes back and puts in a bit of fun.
He is good, man. Yeah, he is
really
good.
is good. And I think people give him a hard time, and they gave him a hard time, I think, mostly because of At World's End. I think that was the film which people didn't like, and they were actually made the same time as Dead Man's Chest. I think he's a really talented director, Gore Verbinski, and his sense of fun and creepiness and mystery and adventure really carried those films along, and he made the most of the ideas of the story. This film has the ideas, but it doesn't know how to deliver on them, doesn't know how to invest you as an audience, and doesn't have that sense of fun.
Okay, what's the grade?
For me, I think it's better than the fourth one, but it probably is not much better than any of the other ones. I'd give it probably a B-.
Really? That's slightly higher than I was expecting, but okay, nice.
I've been thinking about it in my head ever since, wondering, if I could just do that or put that in. And
it looks like it's been tough for you to sort through your thoughts on this one, Phil. It sounds like it's just a big confusing mess.
But the thing is, there's something in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise which is undeniably good, which you want to see revitalised.
It's a very captivating idea. I mean, I like the original ride, to be honest. I thought that was very magical.
Yeah, I've been on it.
I love it. I was totally transported. I love the night sky underground. And I always wanted to eat at the cafe there as well, but it's too expensive.
You have to book in so in advance for that.
Yeah, there we go. Bonuses, any?
You get to find out how Jack Sparrow got all his little trinkets.
Great. I know that's something I was really desperate to know.
You want to know where he got that little coin on his hat from?
Very like the way I really am desperate to know why Han Solo is called Han Solo.
Yeah, exactly. This film is answering the important questions.